Random fact 3. When I was at university, I had a sort of epiphanic, life-changing experience when I went with a friend to Morocco. We were stupid, sort of early 20-year-old white English tourists, and we decided, oh hey ho, it'll be an adventure. We'll go. We won't go by plane because that's too easy. That's too cheap and it doesn't take as long. So we went by coach and we went by ferry. It took us 60 hours on a coach. Yes, with very few stops in between. The ferry was really one of the only brief respites we had from the coach. And when I got there, as stupid white English tourists are wont to do, I felt incredibly ill. I've never been so ill in my entire life. When I came back, I'd lost about 3 stone. I didn't eat anything whilst I was there. I just drank water the whole time, and what little I did take went out very, very quickly, let's put it that way. But whilst I was there, one of the things I did notice was the monstrously profound division between the obscenely, disgustingly rich and the very, very, very poor. And when I say the very poor, it's not really poor, even as many of the purportedly poor in this country would understand it. It's poverty of an astronomical scale. It's people literally eating crap that they find in the street, people with the most profound conditions. There were people with no legs in the streets, people with what looked like leprous conditions, beggars, children, all over the place. And those who did work, who had some sort of income, had to work all the time. And I don't mean that, I'm not engaging in hyperbole there, I don't mean that they had to work 7 days and they got a little bit off. I mean all the time. The man who was I suppose the receptionist of our hotel, Mohammed, he worked every single second of every single day. He had, in his office, he lived there, he had a little cot where he could sleep and a little television and little thing. He made it a little home where he could sit and he could get bits of rest between when people were coming into the hotel, and that really struck me as quite profound. And but what got me was how hospitable people were there and how friendly. I mean, yes, to be fair, a lot of the time people were just after money, but even when you made it plain that you weren't going to give money or you didn't have it to give, and we really didn't. I mean, we had enough to sort of survive whilst we were there and then get back. They were still friendly and hospitable, and we met some of the most interesting, kind, illuminating people whilst we were there, and learnt so much about the culture, about the Berbers, and how the descendants of the Berbers are still quite common in the city. I mean, the Berbers are nomadic. They actually travel across the Sahara back and forth to Morocco and various other places in Africa, and they sell their silver and their hash and all of that sort of thing. That's another interesting thing about Morocco. You wander down the street and you hear people, "You want drug? I give you drug, good drug." You know, that's what you get, and people really don't care. It is illegal, but people just don't give a shit because it's so rife. Yes, and we learnt about the divisions between the various cultures that exist there. There's a Jewish quarter, there's a Christian quarter, there's a proliferation of Muslims, and it seems that a lot of the descendants of the indigenous peoples, like the Berbers, really hate the Muslims there. There's a massive clash of cultures. And how they get around, because it's an Islamic city. It's essentially, it is one of the sites of one of the holiest places in Islam, which is the Kutubiyya, which is a huge tower that contains a lot of Islamic holy treasure. It's beautiful. It's absolutely stunning to look at. And one of the imposed laws there is that you can't sell alcohol. You can get it. Almost all of the bars and restaurants there sell alcohol, but they sell it under the counter. Especially to tourists, they will give you a bit of alcohol. But the way they get around it is by chewing a white root that is it's some sort of intoxicant. It brings about exactly the same effects as alcohol. It doesn't have any other side effects, but it's just like alcohol. So they chew that instead, and it's just like a substitute. Quite amazing. And anyway, what really did it is when we got back, and we had a devil of a time getting back. We really did. Our coach service didn't turn up. There were loads of us, loads of people who booked this coach, waiting for it, and it just didn't turn up. So we were fucked. Basically, we were stranded 3,000 miles away in Morocco, not speaking the language or anything. It's just a good thing we had credit cards with us, so we managed to get back via a plane in the end. But what really did it was when we got back to Heathrow, we got back to London, and we just spent time being guided around by people who were literally living in their own shit and living off of their own shit, but who were very glad to take you around and to talk to you and to engage and just be very friendly. And we went up to one of the big kiosks in London where someone was selling sandwiches, and we just asked where the nearest phone was, and all we got was like a very shirty, "It's over there." And I just wanted to drag the woman across the counter and shriek in her face that we've just come from a country where people have nothing, where they are literally squatting in their own shit, who are more humane and willing to engage with humanity than you are, who by comparison are living the most princely of existences. And that's changed my perspectives quite a lot. I really cannot stand hearing people whinge about living in this country. That's not to say that I think everything is perfect here. I don't think it is, and I think that which is worthy of criticism should receive criticism. But what annoys me is the pervasive sense of misery and melancholy that is completely unjustified, that people in this country generally tend to have, that pervades British culture. I cannot abide it. Because all I want to say to them is, yeah, well, just go and try living in Morocco or somewhere like it for X amount of time and see what real hardship, what real poverty, what real oppression is like.